Welcome to hopefully the final video of just my portfolio site. Things have evolved since all the other videos because I'm too lazy to record. And I think the biggest things is that the takeaway of for the homepage, for example, having it more as just kind of a welcome page and basically sort of like a calling card. So originally I had the blog here and everything. I just felt like that was kind of kooky, not really communicating what I wanted. So added some more text about who I am and like linked out my picture to LinkedIn. Added some like important links that I want people to connect me with. So whatever's relevant. Maybe you'll have like a contact. Let me see. Other big things. I adjusted the navigation a bit. So like when you click into things, um, let's see. You kind of, it's a little more, I feel like, seamless and smooth. I also added like a back button here. So there's a little bit of like communication of how the app is sort of progressive and like revealing itself. So kind of like that. Portfolio was changed to kind of a funky old school, like it's rotated offset initial picture, and then when you hover it kind of like goes to show you more of the full view of things. So it's kind of like I don't know what to call this, but like a hover, like a card over or card reveal. And it's a little hokey, but I kind of like the sense of like we're just playing with UI here, so it's not as technically impressive as I want it to be right now. Part of that is also I gotta like refresh this portfolio, and that just takes a lot of time. That would be a really boring video of me like fiddling with Adobe and kind of just messing around there. And then when you click in, yeah, a nice little kind of reveal again. The CSS kind of like auto handles all this sort of movement. I'm just realizing now the back button is just at the top. Maybe that should be like fixed when you scroll down. But everything kind of like reveals itself nicely, and that's all like CSS. That's all like Tailwind doing it. There's no fancy anything else. So kudos to utilizing CSS in a way that sort of just like handles everything for you. You don't even have to like really, I'm not like animating any of this. This is just sort of like a result of the browser's rendering rules and stuff like that with regards to CSS. All the other links are now external. And yeah, and then I added this little like cool movement here just to kind of give it a little pizzazz. Purposely keeping this tagline fixed so that it's just like little touches here and there of just like personality. And there's kind of a big thing where I probably should show that let's see, coding lessons. So as you can see, my app.js is gone. There was a big thing regards to earlier video. I was like, I'm not using router correctly, and that is true. In terms of nesting two different pages together, I guess the new router syntax is where you kind of define, I guess, a base element for the root path, which I then assign to be my quote unquote wrapper component, which is basically the one that dictates like the first level here. So like this sort of header, which is now a sidebar, and then the main content, and there's my outlet. And then when you get into the child, I have to wrap additionally that child component with a child wrapper. So then when you get to the blog, which is this level, essentially this is the outlet, the blog post, and then the Actually, I'll show you wrapper child is the children that I passed here in the router. So the child page becomes a child children of the wrapper, and then the outlet is now the new route that's the child route. So this is the post. So this is the post route, which is an outlet, and then this whole thing is also an outlet of the main wrapper. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how you iterate with the new router, React Router. This is React Router 6 too. I know they just came out with 7. I was checking with this video, and so everything is completely changed, and I just don't feel like redoing it right now. But as they explain, they changed it because right now it's just written for single page apps, which is basically how I'm using it. So that's kind of another thing. Let's see. What else can I talk about? JS tester. No, there's nothing there. The data. So I set up all the data and I used a context, and that's why this context guide is here. I love cheat sheets. I feel like it's a little bit better than, I guess, AI, which is what everyone's using. Just because this is like someone's vetted, content about how you do this thing. So like, I wouldn't trust AI for like these specific things. Although I don't know, AI basically probably copied this and was like, here you go. So there's that to be said. The data. So I wrapped everything in a data context, and basically the whole site, all the data for the site is now coming live from my own WordPress API. And I genericized the posts and pages to just be like one kind of thing called content item, so it's like easier to manage. Essentially, the data context, it just runs on first load and tries to get everything. Yeah, there's no error checking. I probably should add stuff like that. But in my utils file, and this is kind of how I architect these kind of things, but essentially like the method to get the pages is sort of like an API wrapper. And then that wraps the actual methods like the fetch. I'm using fetch with a promise to grab the data. And kind of what happens here is I've and there's like another I also use constants. This definitely is a pattern I think more people should use. A lot of companies already use. Basically, you abstract things like, just getting the data, getting like the URLs, for example, is its own constant file. So this is just all the URLs of WordPress, and there's actually a function to just generate the actual URL because it has parameters at the end. It's a GET request basically, and so that gets abstracted. So then the utility function to actually do the API call is basically just, hey, I'm going to call the URL that you want to get whatever blog posts. And then for both pages and posts, I try to generalize them and assign them to like this, to like my own content item, I'm calling it. But like, I don't want to get that whole like, where's the example? I don't want to get this whole like massive, WordPress thing passing through the app just because it could change, and there's a lot of drilling, prop drilling, so not fun. So I just kind of like grab the things I really just need, which is another pattern because you might switch out the API endpoint one day or something like that. So you need to remap all your API info to basically what your site needs. Good way to protect your site from crashing from live updates. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of crazy with the optionals here. for prop drilling. It's not ideal, but I think I'm safe with it for now because like WordPress is not going to like alter its API anytime soon on the fly for me. Let's see. This was kind of a funky thing. I actually had to do, and this is super non-performant, and I don't even know if I'm going to keep it this way, but like, I guess the WordPress doesn't include links to the actual image URLs, so I have to like query the what's called the WP attachment. Let me see. Let's see. WP attachment, which is just a page that describes the media, and then from that call, grab the actual thumbnail URL from there. So it's sort of like for every post you have to do the call. So like I think, if you do 10 posts, you have to do 10 additional calls to grab the thumbnail. So I guess another better pattern would be you just grab the images as they happen on the fly, like in the main UI component. Let's say like once you hit the portfolio roll. Yeah, like once you hit this area, this spot to actually like render that image, like maybe then this is like a separate component that does like an async call to grab the media URL, etc. But I just felt like it's okay. This is like a stable API that I'm hosting, so it's not like I'm calling some random external API that will hate me if I spam it. So we'll see how this works for now, but it seems pretty stable and generally is working well. I guess ideally I try to figure out, does the WordPress API have a way to just like include all those attachments and go down that route of like Googling it, because that would be like a lot better. Cool. Let's see what else I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, and then I'm always iffy about promise all and how does it work? Does it really actually wait for everything? So that actually worked out pretty well. It actually, the promise all like just did it. You just map all your promises into an array and just let it run. And I believe promise all is not asynchronous. I don't think it's sequential. Creates a promise, resolve, array of results, all provide promise, resolve, promise rejected. I don't think it's sequential, so I think it just kind of happens. All of them fire at the same time, but they return in the same order. I think that's like the important part, because obviously the array is ordered. I think that is maybe it for like new stuff. Kind of had to like play around with things getting pushed. There's I wanted to point out, like, whenever so I have a bunch of these code blocks which are just pre's, and because PHP sucks. So they are, I guess they don't auto break or anything, right? If you don't, they're just kind of like raw, and so they'll actually push off into the abyss and potentially break the page. So I had to like in Tailwind add like a override for that. So I just doing overflow auto break everything, just to get it to show within where it is. Although I guess technically you wouldn't do the break, because then you'd let people scroll. I don't know. Actually, maybe that makes sense. White space pre-wrap. I don't know. People can understand this. Cool. Yeah. Thank everyone for coming with me on this journey. I think it's in a good spot for now. And really at this point, I just got to make the content better. So I got to work on like getting better portfolio pics, probably cleaning up some of these. Some of these are probably not relevant anymore. This is a very old school design. I also have to fix some of the pages not loading content just because it's like, I think the WordPress API is not returning it. Yeah. And then the blog post, I really got to think about, do I even want this blog post anymore? Because if I don't update it, this is not going to really look good to an employer. I mean, not necessarily true. I think maybe what it means is I make sure the posts are like timeless, so to speak, or at least like demonstrate some important stuff. So yeah, that's kind of important to do. Great. Thanks all.